And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Dr. Robert Christophor Coppes, author of the books Near-Death Experiences and World Religions, in which he compared NDEs with the 5 major religions, and Messages from the Light, which focuses on how much we are interconnected and the consequences of that connection. Today we'll be discussing those books as well as his upcoming book, Impressions of Near-Death Experiences. Dr. Coppes, thank you so much for being my guest today and welcome.
Thank you for being with you. It's very nice.
How did you get involved with NDEs in the first place?
Okay, so that was when I was studying economics. And even with economics, you can be interested in spirituality things. I was reading this book by Raymond Moody. He is the first one who coined the phrase near-death experiences. And particularly one part of the book that struck me was where he had a woman talk about her life review. And in her life review, she said that she was not judged by anyone. And you have to know that I was raised as a Roman Catholic with purgatory and hell. And when I read that, I thought, that's true. That's the way it is. There is no one judging you. There is no purgatory or hell or something like that. And that made me look at near-death experiences more thoroughly. And that's where it started. Of course, I had my study first and then a career, but later on I wanted to see what the research was in the world of near-death experiences, and I found a lot of things. Especially from the Netherlands, there was a very good research done. So that's how it started.
Well, it's interesting that you were Roman Catholic. Are you still Roman Catholic today?
No, I say I'm Roman Catholic, but I'm also Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Islam, and Christian. So I adhere to all the religions because in every religion there is something beautiful, but not one religion covers it all. And the reality is bigger, much bigger than what any of the religions can bring to you. So that's the situation with me at the moment.
Those religions that you mentioned, are those the religions that you compared near-death experiences to?
Yeah, so those were the 5 major religions. And of course, every religion has strands and branches. So it's very difficult to cover everything, but I stuck to the mainstream of those religions, and I started with the oldest one, and that was Hinduism. And then the religion that was sort of derived from it, that's Buddhism. And then we have, of course, Judaism, with the 2 religions that sort of branched from it, the Christianity and Islam. So those were the 5 that I used for the comparison.
You said that you are all those religions. Did you consider yourself a part of all those religions after you did the research for that book or beforehand?
Well, before already I was like, I knew that Christianity it's a beautiful religion, but it's just a religion, and there's a lot of other religions. And when I did the real research with the comparison with NDEs, with NDEs it is that I think they are the best way to get knowledge about our afterlife, and not so much the Bible or the Quran or any other Hindu book. I think the people that have a near-death experience here and now in your vicinity, there are so many of these, they have come very close. And if we don't listen to them, that's a shame, because they have wonderful stories to tell, and there is a lot of wisdom that they can share with everyone. You don't need to have an NDE yourself in order to appreciate all that is told to all the people that have had an NDE.
It's interesting the way that you put that, and maybe we just have to be careful that NDEs don't become a religion.
That's true. That's one of my talks that I gave. That's interesting that you that you start over that. That's true because the thing that I tried to convey during that presentation was that if people start talking about layers in heaven or things that they have seen, that you are in groups of souls and things like that, I think that brings you away or takes you away from the main message in NDEs. And I think that the main message from NDEs, there is actually one, and if you want to extend it, there's two. The one is that it is only love. Love is the most important thing in the world, in this world and in the other world. And it's not just love, it's unconditional love. And unconditional love is, you have to think about that. That's love that has no conditions. There's no condition for you to have this love. So you don't need to dress in a way. You don't have to refrain from eating some stuff, or you have to pray 5 times in a direction, or you have to go to church every Sunday. It's not necessary. You can even be atheist if you want to. And so this love, this is unconditional and it's for everyone. So that's the most foremost thing from NDEs, because if you read NDEs, if you hear NDErs talk, that is what comes out foremost. The second thing, I would say that we are actually very, very closely interconnected with each other. And some even go further than that. They say that I am you and you are me, so there's no distinction between us. And some go even further than that. And they say that we together, all of us together, everything, but also the stars in the universe, all the universes together, that's God. We are part of God. And so if you, those are the two messages that I think are so important. And if you go further into all the NDEs, because there are so many, there will be people saying this and that, and because not one NDE is the same as another, they are all different. There's no one standard NDE that you go through, like with tick boxes that you can tick them. I've seen a tunnel, I've seen the light, I've seen relatives that were dead or so. That's not how it works. So, but if you boil it down to the core, I think those two things would really be the core, like love, unconditional love, and we are all one.
To get back to your book, Near-Death Experiences and World Religions, can you tell us what aspects of the 5 major religions are found within NDEs?
What I found was that if you go through each of the 5 main religions, you would look at the essences of those religions, and you would find them back in NDEs. Like the one that's very important is, of course, love. That you would find that in any of the religions. And you would find that, of course, in NDEs. So if you look at individual religions, Christianity or Islam, if you look at the main things in those religions, then that would be what you will find in NDEs, but not the other way around. I think NDEs give you more essential aspects which you will not find in all the religions. And to give you an example, if you look at Hinduism, you will find that in Hinduism, it says that every one of us, every single person, carries part of God within. So, and that's called the Atman. So Atman is part of every person. That's the God within you. That's why you also you say that to the God within you. And in NDEs, from NDEs, you get the notion that every one of us has the light within us. So sort of the God is within you. That's what the NDErs would say. Now, that's one thing that you will find as a comparison between Hinduism and NDEs. But the God within you, you will not find in Christianity, for instance, or in Islam or Judaism, and also not in Buddhism. So, because in Christianity, God is a third person outside you. He is the one, and it's always a he. We always refer to God as he, and I don't like that because it is an it or a she. But he judges you, so you are someone else. And in NDEs, that's not the case. And in Hinduism, it's not the case either. So here you have an example where NDEs say things that you will not find in in all the religions, only in one religion. That's. I hope you get the idea that. So it's one way. The essences of each of the religions, the real essences, you would find in NDEs, but not the other way around. And this is an example.
Do you find that the aspects of NDEs are in one religion or more in one religion than any of the others?
You can't really say that one religion has more than the other religion of the NDEs. So there's more of the NDEs in one of those religions. I don't think you can say that. It's no. That's I looked at a lot of aspects, and in my book I noted them down. Like, for instance, with Christianity, the very interesting thing of Christianity was that. What Jesus says at one moment when he's asked what is the most important thing in the law, and meant was the Jewish law, and Jesus replied like, you have to love the God with all your heart and all your mind, and the second equal to that is love your neighbors like you love yourself. Now, what is important there is that he says God, your neighbor, and yourself actually are on the same footing, because you have to love them all in the same way. That's what he says, and that's really innovative, and that's something that you really would find in NDEs. You would not find that so much in that way in Islam or in, well, sort of in Judaism, yes, but not so much in Hinduism or Buddhism.
I had a guest on once before that according to him, there are two NDEs within the Bible. One is, I believe, when Paul was on his way to Damascus.
Yes, that's
and the other
often
one,
mentioned as one.
At that, and the other one is he believes that the resurrection of Jesus is an NDE. What are your thoughts on that?
The one on Paul does seem to be, it appears to be some kind of NDE, because he's struck by lightning and he falls off his horse, and then afterwards he's totally changed. He has seen things, and so that's what typically happens with an NDE. If someone has an NDE, they change immediately. It's a life changer. It's really they can't be the same person as before, because they have seen too much. They have seen and appreciated so much of reality, of the real reality, not the reality that we see here on earth. The other one about Jesus having had an NDE could be, but I mean, in the Bible it says that he really died on the cross and he was buried, so that looks like a real death. And then what happened afterwards, that he arose again from the grave. Yeah, that's I don't know what to make of it, but well, maybe it could be. There are cases that people have been sort of dead dead for quite some while. But in this case, it will be like 3 days. It's a little bit long to be without oxygen or whatever. I don't know. It's too long ago.
Yeah, some of my guests were dead for quite a long time and
Yes.
or were healed in such a fashion that it seems like the only way they could have been healed was through some divine process.
Yes.
But I agree with you, 3 days is a little long.
Yeah, that's true. There are very interesting healings, self-healings after an NDE. It's very interesting. Yeah, it happens regularly. I mean, Anita Marjani is an example. But if you go through all the stories, you will find a lot of them. And I love them. It's really nice to hear from them.
All right. On your second book, which you focused on the interconnectedness of us all, what are some of the consequences of us all being interconnected?
I wrote that book around the financial crisis. And it was interesting that I spoke with a woman in the Netherlands. I interviewed her. She had an NDE. I spoke to her before the financial crisis took place. It had started with, I think it was Bear Stearns that was rescued by the Federal Reserve. And then afterwards, the party went on again. And in that time, I had her interviewing her. And she said that she had an NDE in, I think, 89 or so long ago. And she said that in her NDE, she saw a period where the financial system would really crash and would give a big problem worldwide. A lot of people would feel it. And then, and she said, I didn't know when it would be because there are no labels like this is going to be then and then or so. There's no time frame on it. If you're in your NDE, there's no time. I mean, it's difficult to find out what it is. But she says the anxiety in the world that I feel now with this rescue of Bear Stearns, that's the time that it's going to happen. And I said to her, I'm an economist, and I thought I knew. And I told her, it's okay. They rescued this firm, and it's the things are going to go on. And then, as you know, then finally Lehman Brothers broke, and then Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, your car companies. I mean, the biggies went down, and that really triggered everything. And then I phoned her. I said, "You were right after all," and I was astonished. And so I used that a little bit also, her story that she had seen it already beforehand in 1989. The thing is that if we all are very not honest to each other, like, with all those mortgages that people would get mortgages in a non-honest way, and that was on a very grand scale, that it eventually will turn back on you. And it was based on greed, on our own self-interest. Many people participated in it. And I'm not pointing fingers, but it's like you just have to see that whatever you do, it's not going to disappear. It's going to stay. It has an effect. Every single thing we do, also our thoughts, have an effect. And also, if there is a lot of dishonesty in the world and a lot of cheating, you might gain yourself, but it will wind up somewhere else. So, and that's what happened. And that's why I try to explain that it's better to look at our mutual interest on a longer term instead of our own self-interest on the short term. because the whole financial crisis was a little bit like that, the self-interest on a short term.
Do you believe that we are all one, including with God, and perhaps that we are even God?
Yes. If you ask it like that, yes, I do. That's what I think. And that's based on all the stories, all the interviews that I had, so many NDEs that I read. It's difficult for them to exactly pinpoint what they experienced, because their experience is ineffable, but they feel, a lot of people feel that they are very closely interconnected, at least closely interconnected, but it goes further than that. If you really look at all the NDEs, or many NDEs, and that's what I try to do for my upcoming book. I had quotes from more than 100 NDErs, and I wanted to have only the NDErs that were documented somewhere, because I wanted to be able to refer to them. If you look at that, I was astonished how many quotes I could find of people saying, also saying, we are God. We, all of us are God. I have God within me. And that is what some of them say, or many of them say.
Have you heard any of them say that when they go back on the other side, it's like we are all collectively God? So when we go back, we join back up collectively as one.
Yes. Yeah, so it's not like I am God, but I'm part of it. Same with you and all the listeners. And there's no exception. So even the people that you dislike, or maybe the people from the news that you think, well, not those or not them, everyone, it includes everyone. Every single person belongs to the whole thing. We are all one. That's what I start believing, and it makes sense, because it also comes out of life reviews. If you look at a lot of life reviews, life review is where the NDEer gets to see his or her life. And that's an opportunity. Some people do. Not everyone gets to see a life review. As I said, not one NDE is the same as another. But if one has a life review, they can see all the details in the life review, and they see it not only as from their own perspective, but they see it also from the perspective of the other. So, and for a brief moment, they are those other people. That's what they say. And can I give an example here from one of the interviews that I had with a Dutch lady? That's a very interesting example. She is an elderly lady who was here after the war as a child, and she went to school. And you have to know that the Netherlands were a war-torn country then, and we didn't have a lot of things. So we were very poor. There were no sweets, and at one moment in time, she got some sweets from her mother to share with a friend. Now, and in her life review, which she had later, much later when she was an adult, she saw that particular moment that she shared the sweets with this school friend. And she noticed how that was for that school friend. She saw that the school friend thought herself so worthy of receiving those sweets, but she didn't feel it from her own perspective, but she saw it from the perspective of that friend. So she was that friend for a brief moment. And she also noticed that it didn't stop there. It goes on further. It rippled also to the mother of the friend. And that's what you hear a lot of times. Whatever you do, it has an effect everywhere in the world. And another example of the same woman, there was another girlfriend that had lice, those crawly animals in your hair. And at that time, we didn't have shampoos to tackle them. So she asked her, this friend asked her to help her. And then instead of saying it in a soft voice, let's go there and there, to do that, this NDER said it in a loud voice, so other friends of her could hear that. And then she was in her NDE, in her life review, and she felt what this friend with the lice felt, what she went through. And it was like she was stabbed in the heart by all those loud noises that she had lice and such a thing. It was terrible for this girl to go through that. And she felt it from the point of view of that friend. She was that friend and she felt how it felt. And I think that's the most direct way to come close to someone else, because in fact you are that other person for a moment. But she said it was not, that in itself was terrible. She felt that she had done something wrong, and she was sorry for that. She regretted that very much. But the thing that she regretted most was that she saw that she had an other opportunity, that there were other possibilities to have done this. And one of them would have brought so much more love into the world. And that's what she regretted most. Not the pain that she caused to this girl with the lice, but that she chose for this suboptimal solution, and whereas she could have done something else. And that's something we have to think about when we do things. There are options. We always have options. The best way to go about is to find the option that adds the most love to the world. And one of the things that I learned from NDErs is not to speak about good and bad, because those are words of the earth. So you can't really say that some people are good or bad or so, or that your actions are good or bad, but it's more like some actions add more love to the world. And that's what it's all about.
Do you think our lives are a test of choices?
That's a very interesting question. Yes. Our lives are a test of choices. One of the things that I understand from NDEs is that actually nothing matters. It sounds very strange, but it's like no one judges you. There's no one not testing you. I think it's whatever you choose to do doesn't really matter. There's no one judges you in after your life review, for instance. And to give you an example, which I thought was very nice, is there was this young boy who was in a scouting environment. He had to swim somewhere in a lake, and something happened and he drowned. And during his life review, he saw all the things he had done. And remember, he's 14 years old. So what nasty things can you do? Not very much, I would think. And then he saw his life review in the presence of this light being, which he called an angel. So he saw this in the presence of this angel. And then he says, I hope they don't judge me too severely about all the things that I did. And then this angel says to him, well, you're going to be judged by the most powerful judge there is. And then, of course, he looks a little bit weary, and then he says, when will that happen? And then this angel says, well, that has happened already. The judge is you. And so, meaning that there is no one judging you. So they are neutral to whatever you did. And remember, it's unconditional love that there is. So it means whatever you do, whatever your choices were, no problem. And the example that I gave with this woman from the south of the Netherlands, just after the war, she was the one who thought by herself, feeling what her friend felt. Wow, I could have done something different. That would have made me happier at this moment looking at my life review. So that's the thing. But it's a good thing, a good thought that you have there. It might be a test of options or choices. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the word test may be a little bit too strong, but even from what you're saying, we have options, we have choices, and we can make better choices.
Yes, yes.
All right, so in your latest book that you're working on, you have interviewed over 100 people. In your opinion, what is the way people leave their body? Through their heart or through their head or something else?
Most people leave their bodies so quickly that they don't even know where they leave it from. One person said it's like a toast popping out of a toaster. It goes so quick that I thought that was a very funny way of putting it. But you hear all stories. Through the head, I hear most, but it's not really clear where they leave their body from. But once they left their body, most of the time, people are very confused because sometimes they don't even recognize their own body. And the reason for that is that you always look at your images in 2D, so it's flat. It's either in the mirror or on a picture. But once you're out your body, you can see yourself in 3D. And that's apparently such a different view that some people don't recognize themselves.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. I like the way you put that.
There's this story about a woman who left her body and she turned around. She was in a hospital. And she turned around and saw this woman lying on the bed and wearing the same kind of nightgown. And she thought, oh, wow, she had the same nightgown. And then just a moment later, she thinks, oh, that's me. And then it starts when people really get scared or not scared, but like surprised that they are still thinking and have consciousness. So it's not in the body, it's outside of the body.
I'm pretty sure you've already seen this, but most NDE people will say that once they're out of their body, there is no time.
Yes.
Do you believe that all time is already played out and it's all there happening at the same time?
Yes. Yeah. Well, time is something that NDErs struggle with. They don't know how to put it. Some people, one person said my experience was not in the time, it was between the time. And others said all time is there at once. So it all happens at once. And another person said like history or future. He said it is everything is in the now. Over there, so not here, but in that other place, everything is in the now, also future and history. Now, I don't know how to understand that, but it gives me the impression that something is strange going on with time. It's not linear time that we know here, at least that we can say. It's totally different.
Some of my NDE guests will talk about that you have the option of not coming back here, but going somewhere else after this life. And some of them say they're not coming back. What is your opinion on that?
Well, all the NDEs that we spoke to or that have written or documented their story have come back. We can say that. So, but what I see from NDErs is that they sometimes or very often they don't want to go back. sometimes they want to go back. There are stories of people that really want to go back because they want to look after their children, or there's another reason they want to go back. But many don't want to go back. And then they are gently persuaded into going back. Or in some cases, they have shown the NDEr why they were on Earth. There is a reason for being on Earth for every single one of us. And the reason was already determined before we came here on Earth. So in those cases, people just had to be reminded of the reason why they had to be on Earth. And then once they see that, they also understand why they chose to be on Earth, and then they go back again. So there's a lot of these stories, but there are stories that people are just told, well, you have to go back. And then that happens. There's no question about it. As if the voice speaks, then you do what it says.
Some of my guests have actually went to other planets during their NDE and or have encountered other non-human entities out there. Some people call them angels. Some people say they've seen extraterrestrials or aliens. What is your opinion on that?
I heard those stories too. And if you really look at how big our universe is, with so many solar systems and whatever you have, why would we be the only ones here in this whole universe? There are zillions of galaxies, even in our own galaxy, the solar, there might be a lot of life. They have found planets that look like Earth and could carry life. Why not in all those other galaxies? So I think when you look at it from a scientific point of view, there's a good case for more than one place in universe where there could be life. So if NDErs say they have seen it, I believe them. It could, so those are extraterrestrials by definition. And so that's the case. That's what it is.
Even though you haven't had an NDE, have you had something similar to it through meditation or anything else like that?
An NDEr told me once that she thinks that I have had a child NDE that I must have forgotten. And when I go back in my childhood, there are a few moments. There's one moment in my life that, well, something happened. I was roaming through kitchens through cupboards in the kitchen, trying to find something nice to eat, and I found cinnamon, and I put that in my mouth, and it went all through my lungs. And I remember that I couldn't breathe for some time, and I think I must have passed out. So that must have been, if she's right, then that must have been the moment. She said that she could see of people when they have had an NDE. So I don't know. So you know that NDErs, when they come together, they would really feel more about each other. I mean, they sense that someone has an NDE. So in this case, it could really be that she felt it from me.
A lot of my guests will say that they have other changes with them after their NDEs, and they're kind of like cognitive changes but different. And I feel like they're all or mostly psychic changes. Like they'll become empathic or clairsentient or clairvoyant. What have you found about that?
Oh, there are a lot of after effects that people go through. They change thoroughly. Any NDE does, and NDEr does. And what you say is true. There's a lot of people that start being more psychic. They're clairvoyant. Some people get healing powers. there is a very interesting story about Elizabeth Krohn, who was able to, and she wrote a book about that, she was able to see in the future, but those were things that she couldn't, why would she want to see things in the future? But it just happened. Like she saw the plane being ditched in the Hudson River, and a lot of those kind of things. And she registered those by sending herself emails with where there's a timestamp. If how to prove that you can see things in the future, that is by sending yourself an email with what you have seen. There's a timestamp there, and if it happens, then you can say, well, that was before it happened. So those are some of the after effects, but there are also after effects like people being able to interfere without wanting to do that with electricity. Things like that happen. Being able to heal or heal yourself.
I think that's a great idea, to send yourself an email to timestamp it, so you have a record of what if something's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. And other things is like people, if we spoke about religions, people get less religious, but more spiritual, for instance. That's what happens to most of the NDErs. And they have a higher tolerance for people. They like to be more with people. They are less interested in power and money, or more interested in being with people, with nature, with animals. And another thing is that they have difficulties with light, the bright earthly light. If the sun shines, or if you're in a room with too much light, then that could easily be not very nice for an NDEer. Or sounds, when sounds are too harsh, or being in crowds, too many people would also not be very nice. And they need less medicine. I think that something like that should be researched a bit better. But I think there are indications that people with an NDE could easily use less medicine than people without an NDE. So those are a few of the after effects that I found, or that are out there.
One of the most common questions I get is, how have I personally changed after interviewing all these people? Well, I'm going to turn that question to you. How have you changed over the years after doing all this research on NDEs?
Well, I said before that I used to be Roman Catholic, and that changed. That's one of the things. I think I became also more like I just mentioned with NDErs, so more interested in people, less interested in money and things like that. And I think that when NDEs would become more known to the broad public, then things in the world would change. And I would like to briefly say a little bit more about that, because the public at this moment thinks about NDEs. Well, sometimes they know about it, but they don't know if it's true. Now, there is no scientific proof at this moment that NDEs are real. There is, however, indirect or circumstantial evidence that these experiences are real. And this evidence comes from veridical observations. And veridical observations, I have to explain a little bit more. It's where people start their NDE by exiting or leaving their body. they walk around, or they roam around where their body is, and they can see a lot of things that happen there. And once they come back, they could tell what they have seen. And when that's confirmed, then that gives an indication that your mind or your spirit can be detached from your body. It doesn't need your body to be there. So your consciousness can be there without your body. And there are a lot of these stories, and they are very important. They're increasing in number. And if people really understand that these stories give a circumstantial evidence that NDEs are really a first step outside of your body, then people would start being interested in what the messages are. And the messages are, well, what we said just before, like love, unconditional love is the most important thing, and unity, that we are all one. So it would perhaps change people's attitude towards each other. They would start doing things differently towards nature, towards each other. And that's what my hope is, that these experiences will lead to a change in our behavior. And maybe for people, I don't know if people really understand what the veridical observations are. Maybe I can give an example there.
Sure.
There are a few examples that I mentioned in my book. One of them is, by the way, the example of the woman that I spoke to in 1989, where she already saw the financial crisis happening. I think that's a kind of a veridical observation as well, because she saw things before it already happened. But there is, for instance, this story about an American woman who was in a car accident on the highway. Her car went into a truck and was damaged in such a way that she was unconscious. She had to be taken to the hospital somewhere by helicopter. She didn't see the hospital. She was outside her body, in and out, during 2 weeks. So during the operation, she was having her near-death experience. Then at one moment, she saw her parents sitting in the cafeteria of the hospital. And she saw that her two grandmas were there as well. Now, at one moment, she saw her father. They were all nervous because of, well, her situation, of course. And then her father said, "I'm so nervous, I have to go outside, I need to smoke." So he went outside to smoke. But both grandmothers went outside with him as well to smoke. And you have to know that these two grandmothers didn't smoke, never smoked, would never smoke. She saw this. And then when everything went okay, and she was back in her body and she was recuperating again, she told the story to her mother, and the mother didn't believe her. And then until she told her that she saw the grandmas going out for a smoke, which was odd, which was strange. And that made the difference. And there are so many of these stories and those were documented. These people were interviewed after the fact, both the mother and the grandmother. So it was made clear, it was documented that this really had happened. And there are so many of these stories, which gives you the circumstantial evidence, so to speak, that NDEs are real. Now, it doesn't prove that there is a heaven afterwards, but it shows you that the first step is real, that the consciousness of people can be outside the body of a person.
Do you believe that we are in a dual system and we have a consciousness and a body which are separate from each other? Or do you believe that the body is a manifestation of the consciousness?
Okay, that's... I don't know. I know that the consciousness or the spirit is part of another world, and it's imprisoned in the body. That's what I believe. That's what I hear, and that's what I believe.
Why do you use the word imprisoned?
Yes.
Interesting. That kind of gives a negative feel to it if it's prisoned.
That's how people speak about it, because they if they have an NDE, you must know that experience is so nice, so wonderful, so they see things, they see this other realm, this other dimension where everything is more free, where there is only love and things like that. That when they go back again, they say they had to be back into their prison or in this diver suit. It's a little bit too narrow. There are also some stories of people who say, my expanse was so big, I was so big there, that I was amazed that they could squeeze me back into this tiny little piece of meat. And then one said, they really had to squeeze me in. And another one said, well, it's like putting an elephant in a Coca-Cola can. And they managed doing that.
I guess I was curious about the word imprisoned, because I get the feeling from talking to so many people that we choose to come here.
Yeah, I think that's the case. That's what I understand from all the NDEs that come back again and chose to come back again. That they understand that we have had the choice of coming here to Earth, and then we have to do our time here. It sounds like still being in a prison.
But prison.
It's voluntarily. I mean, for everyone, every single one here on Earth, we are here by our own choice. We need to do something. We agreed on doing it, and once we are here, we are confined to time and place and all these other things that are difficult to work with. And then we get all these struggles. We need to do all these educations. We have to get our food. We have to whatever. And that makes things difficult. But once you're back again, things change again. But it's voluntarily. It's you are here to get experiences. And that's one of the NDErs that I spoke. She was a little girl of 8 when it happened to her. It was not in a very nice way, because she was kidnapped by 2 guys, and one of them tried to drown her. But her father, fortunately, saw or knew something was going on and rushed over, and then he rescued her. She had this whole wonderful experience. And then she had what she said, I had these conversations with God, and God gave me a recipe for life. And the recipe was love. There's 4 things: love, be loved, just be, and experience life. Now, you have to think about these things. Love and be loved are things that we already said are important. Love. And you have to love someone else, but you also have to allow other people to love you. But just be. And experience life. I think that's one of the things we need to do. It's just be here and experience life. It's because once you're over there, it's only everything's nice. You don't have any choices. There's no excitement. It's just nice. And I don't know. It could be very boring after a while. But if you're here, you have all these options, and we already spoke about the options. You have so many options, and that's where the excitement is. Like the little lady with the lice that we spoke about. She had the option to work with her in a nice way, or in a not nice way, or do it in a different way. Perhaps there are even more options. there are options to choose from. Every day that we are here, in each of our lives, we have a lot of options, and it's exciting to find the option that increases love in this world. That's how I understand it, and that's how I feel it as well.
It's common for my NDE guests to tell me that when they first exit their body, they're in what people call the black void. What is your opinion of what the black void is?
The black void is something that I hear a lot of times, but as I said before, not one NDE is the same as another. Some people just go into the light. Some people have a tunnel or a cave. Some people just are there without having skip all these things. Skip also the black or the dark area. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it's sometimes it's part of an NDE. That's true, and it's an interesting story of a friend of mine. She had an NDE. She was in this velvety, wonderful, loving blackness, and she really enjoyed it. She floated around without seeing anything, and she felt wonderful. And then after a while, she thought, well, I can do this for quite a while, but I'd like to see something different. And then all of a sudden, when she thought of this, things shifted and changed. And she says, and then I quote, she says something like, it was like a big hand with a lot of brushes came along and painted this wonderful environment with green grass, with wonderful flowers, with rolling hills and pathways and water streams, and wonderful it was. And that's a place where she wanted to be. That's what in her head or in her mind was something that was the nice thing in her life, and that's what she got. So what I get out of this is that we, to a certain extent, are able to adapt or change the place that we want to be in. And I also believe that an NDE, because there are so many different stories of NDEs, the first phase of an NDE starts with things that are in your mind, still in your mind, in your consciousness, because we just exit what we think still is our ego. So it will be culturally colored. It will be colored by what you think is nice, or it will be randomly given to you from your mind. It could also be things that are not so nice, because there are also some distressing NDEs, but many of the times they change into nicer NDEs. So it's partly something that we create ourselves. But the question is, what happens when we stay there longer? And what I think is that we all merge into this oneness. And that's also the oneness where all the newborn people come from.
Have you had any communication with people who have had hellish NDEs? And if so, what is your opinion on those?
Yes, there are stories of people who have had distressing NDEs. I like to call them like that because, there are, most of the NDEs are blissful, are nice, a lot of love, unconditional love. But there are also a number, and you can't ignore those, that are distressing. And it is unclear why this is. But there's one thing that is sure, is that it doesn't happen only to bad people. I mean, the words bad and good I can't use. But what we think on earth as people that are bad, don't always get bad NDEs. And there are cases of people that are just average people that get bad NDEs. or distressing NDE. So that can't be a conclusion of why someone gets a distressing NDE. So there must be something else. And that is what I think, and it's based on what Nancy Adams Bush is someone who had a distressing NDE herself and who researched it very well. What she said, and I believe what she says, and that's the first phase of our NDE is still not really stable, and in it can be parts of can be archetypes that just pop up, and sometimes there are bad or distressing archetypes that will pop up. So that would explain why it happens also to people that we quote say are good people. And there are cases like there's also Damien Brinkley. This is a guy that you might know. He's quite famous in this area. He was what he said, a kind of bad person because he was a bully in school and he fought a lot of times. He was also in some kind of American institution that went outside the United States to kill off other people. I don't know what these people are. He doesn't really say so in his book. But what he says is in his life review, he saw all these things happening. And what he saw is the feelings of those other people, but especially also the women and the children of the people that he killed off. And he felt it from their point of view. So that was kind of difficult to go through. But he said the rest of my NDE was wonderful. It was a wonderful NDE. So this is an example of someone who we might call bad, but had a nice NDE. And there are also people that are average people that get a distressing NDE. So yeah, that can't be the explanation. It must be something else. But one reason why I think eventually we all go to this blissful environment, there are two. There are people, NDErs, that say they got really the message that there is no purgatory and no hell. So don't be afraid. And another thing is that there are so many stories of people that say that there is unconditional love on the other side. So if that's the case, why would it then be the case that some people go to this stressful, distressing area and stay there forever? That doesn't figure. That doesn't sound good, because then it would not be unconditional. Do you see what I mean? It needs to be unconditional. If there are people that go to this distressful place and stay there forever, then that's not unconditional. So that can't be the case. That's how I see it.
All right, Dr. Coppes, I'm running out of time. So you have these other two books. Can we find them on your website at bobcoppes.com, or are they on Amazon?
They are. You can find them there on the website, yes.
When do you anticipate your newest book being published?
I have to work with an editor together, but it will hopefully be somewhere this year. So more at the second part of this year. We are almost there. So I think so, in 2022, I hope.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
No.
Your other website is called NDEunconditionallove.com. What kind of content are you providing there?
The content there is that's a kind of a declaration about unconditional love, and it's subscribed by a lot of NDErs. So there are more than 100 NDErs that subscribe to that declaration. And it's based on these things that I said. So like unconditional love, and we are all one. And you will find more information there on organizations worldwide, and a number of videos for information and literature.
After watching this podcast, people may want to ask you questions. Are you available for that? And if so,
Yes.
Should they contact you on your website or where?
Yes, that's the best thing to do. So if they have questions, then they can always reach me through my websites. Both websites have a place where they can fill out their questions and on this formula.
Right. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want us to know about?
No, this book with more than 100 with quotes of more than 100 NDErs. I think that's the best way for people to get an impression of what NDEs are, because, as I said, not one NDE is the same as another. And if you see a lot of quotes, if you get your own, you make your own picture of the whole thing. That's why it's impressionist picture.
All right. Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Without any exception, I believe that we all go to this wonderful area, but before we go there, we need to do things here. And the best thing to do here is to do things in love and together. And that's what I hope that people will do. And I'm not a saint, and I noticed that NDErs are no saints either. So it's always a struggle, but that's the interesting part. And you will always pass. There's no person that will not pass the test. I think everyone passes the test, since it's unconditional love over there. Unconditional.
Dr. Coppes, thank you for that information, and thank you for being my guest today. I wish you massive success with your book.
Thank you very much, and it was wonderful to be on your show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.